Thanks for meeting me here today. In times past, the art of the business deal, as it were, was anytime that there was major revolution, anytime that there was major innovation to be had and to be delegated and shared with the masses, the general rule of thumb was one for all. One family car for the family. One family TV for the household unit. One family computer for the central processing of that structure. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to change the model a bit. We're actually going to be shifting in a new direction, in a new way of thinking, and with a new purpose in mind.
The very interesting academic insight that investors, venture capitalists, and the roboticists, the manufacturers of said machines themselves, are all beginning to realize is that prior to the conventional wisdom of less is more, instead what we're finding with robotics and mass manufacturing robotics in general for the masses consumption is that the inverse of that old trope seems to be more relevant and true than ever before.
Thanks to innovations in manufacturing in general, as well as the practical application of how to assemble a robot. The thing is manufacturing many robots is not a problem or a challenge at all. Instead, what this consumerism design challenge really comes down to is a real problem with how do we convince the consumer to get on board with this? Because traditionally, it's been one for many, not many for one. And to flip that on its head obviously has a lot of daunting intrinsic complexity built into it innately.
An interesting notion that I've seen personally tossed out that's been in the discussions of this grander idea at large is maybe instead of just simply trying to increase consumerism wholesale and convince everybody that we all need to be walking around with our own army of robots at all times ready to serve us at a moment's notice, instead of all that, maybe it's possibly perhaps a more nuanced approach that is required instead. Maybe it comes down to the individual yet again. Maybe instead of many robots for all purposes, maybe people stick with one or two robots for specific purposes. We end up designing unique and highly specified, highly tailored robots for the specified user and the specified user's needs. This also brings up a whole host of questions and concerns about, well, what if one robot does in fact end up becoming the meta? What if people figure out a way to min-max the robots, and my robot is clearly superior to your robot and all your robots, and therefore you will now have to bow down to me? We laugh about that idea, and that is rather whimsical in the moment. But the thing is people have judged each other and condemned each other for much less when we consider the historical context of who we are. So, is there one just simple right answer? Is there one simple right guiding avenue that we should be taking in this matter? As it currently stands, the only actual real power player, the only one who's actually making these decisions and moves in the current real time is China. China is already actively producing and mass manufacturing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of robots right here, right now, in real time, all for various tasks, various purposes, various challenges to overcome. And so, the guiding light, the deciding factor, is still very much up in the clouds, and no one's really made any real insight or real revelation onto how to best approach this problem. Should we just produce as many robots as possible for every single reason and problem that ever comes across a human? Or should we try to stick to more personalized, specialized, tailored individual tools for the individual in need? Now, obviously, probably over the next several years in particular, we will see multiple different avenues being taken to approach this convoluted question. But something to recognize is that you, the dear consumer, have the most power out of any power player here. And the way that you decide to interact with the commercial entities that begin to present themselves in these next several years are going to be major deciding factors in how we as a nation, we as a people, we as a society move forward with robotics, artificial intelligence, and all the other culminating innovations that come rolling down the hill with it. But that's about it for today. So tell me, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What are your opinions on the matter? Does the idea of having multiple robots intrigue you? Does that interest you? Would you consider that? Obviously, if they're to be charging $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 per unit, that doesn't exactly seem like a super affordable thing to just be going out and buying tens of at a time. No, obviously not. But over time, it's very pragmatic to believe that one could easily acquire many droids. It really wouldn't be that. So yet again, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions on the matter? Would you be more interested in an army of servitors running around and chasing you around and helping you out with each and every individual task? Or would you prefer a more specialized, a more tailored individual experience? Maybe it can't do all things, but it can do some things, and it does those some things damn well. Love to hear your thoughts, love to hear your opinions, and until next time,